3 days before the wedding, I was at the bridal shop trying on my wedding dress. A delicate-looking woman suddenly burst in. She walked up to me smugly and said, "Ava Miller, just give up. Ryan Hayes isn't going to marry you. He's already made a deal with my father. As long as he marries me, my father will give him the position of vice president at Henderson Corporation." I looked at the woman in front of me, thought for a moment, and asked, confused, "Henderson Corporation? Which Henderson Corporation? Is it the one that hangs out outside my office entrance every day, begging to partner with me? Ava Miller, let's break up. The person I like is Chloe Henderson, not you. I can't marry you." Ryan Hayes' voice was resolute, devoid of any emotion. Ryan and I had known each other for 8 years and dated for 5. Before this, I had never imagined our relationship would end like this. To say I wasn't sad would definitely be a lie. After all, spending 5 years together day and night, you'd even grow attached to a dog. I composed myself, trying to keep my voice level. "Are you sure you want to break up with me for a woman you've known for less than a week?" Ryan and Chloe met at my birthday party. Chloe came that day as a friend of my childhood friend. It was also that day that Chloe took one look at the exceptionally handsome Ryan Hayes and was smitten. In the week that followed, Chloe aggressively pursued Ryan. Hearing this, Ryan looked at me, his eyes filled with the defeat of being crushed by reality. "Ava, I'm sorry, but I have to marry Chloe. Her father said as long as I marry her, the vice president position at Henderson Corporation will be mine." Vice president at Henderson Corporation. That's a position we could only dream of reaching in a lifetime. Ryan's eyes were full of greed. He paused, looked at me, and hesitated, wanting to say more. If, after I become vice president, you're still willing to be with me, I'll definitely give you the best of everything." I looked at that disgusting look on his face and laughed, fueled by anger. I opened my mouth and yelled, "Get out. Get the hell out." 5 years of genuine feelings completely wasted. After kicking Ryan out of my apartment, I picked up the phone on the table and made a call. Less than half an hour later, a black SUV pulled up outside my apartment building. I went downstairs and quickly got into the back seat. "Tired of playing with your little boyfriend? Finally decide to come back." As soon as I was settled, a low male voice came from the passenger seat. I glanced in the direction of the voice. "Ethan Miller, if you tease me again, I'm not going to the office tomorrow." My brother Ethan choked on my words for a moment. He rolled his eyes at me but didn't make any more sarcastic remarks. 5 years ago, my parents died in an accident, leaving behind my brother Ethan and me, along with a massive Miller Corp. But my brother Ethan's dream since he was a child was to become an excellent surgeon. He disliked the schemes and backstabbing among businessmen. I, on the other hand, was different. I didn't have any particular dreams, just living day by day. To allow my brother Ethan to pursue his dream without worries, I stepped up under pressure and took over the entire Miller Corporation single-handedly. That was also the year Ryan and I officially started dating. But at that time, I had just taken over Miller Corporation, and no one knew what its future development would be like. Because of this, I chose to keep my identity a secret. I kept it a secret for 5 years. I had originally planned to explain everything clearly to Ryan after the wedding. But who would have thought things would turn out like this? The next time I saw Ryan was several days later. At a charity auction, my brother Ethan and I attended together. "Your taste is really bad," my brother Ethan said, standing beside me with a glass of red wine, his gaze fixed on a certain spot, muttering with disdain. I got angry and stepped hard on my brother Ethan's foot before following his gaze. It was Ryan Hayes and Chloe Henderson. As if sensing something, they happened to look our way too. Our eyes met. My brother Ethan suddenly grabbed my ear. He said angrily, "Ava Miller, how many times have I told you not to step on my shoes? Sir, please let go." I was being held by the ear by this jerk, Ethan Miller, and I had no idea when the Ryan Hayes in front of me had walked over, until his familiar voice sounded by my ear. My brother Ethan was taken aback for a moment, looking somewhat amused, but his hand didn't loosen its grip on my ear at all. I grabbed it. "What's it to you?" Ryan Hayes' brows furrowed, his eyes looking at me with an expression that was hard to read. Was it hate or anger? "How did you end up here?" "I've been looking for you for ages," Chloe Henderson said, seeing Ryan Hayes there, and she walked towards us. I quickly struggled, escaping my brother Ethan's clutches on my ear. I glared at my brother Ethan fiercely, then put my hands behind my back and pinched his waist hard twice. Seeing my brother Ethan gasp in pain, I smugly winked at him. Ryan Hayes' face turned green watching the little interaction between my brother Ethan and me. But what was it to me? It was Chloe Henderson beside him who noticed Ryan's abnormality. She glared at me with intense jealousy, though it was fleeting. Then she quickly linked her arm through Ryan's and smiled fakely. "Oh, look who it is, Ava. I forgot to tell you, Ryan and I are already married. We're legally husband and wife now." I returned a similar smile and linked my arm through my brother Ethan's. "Oh, really? Well, congratulations. Congrats on dumpster diving. That's impressive. When's the wedding banquet? Be sure to send us an invitation. My darling and I will definitely be there on time. Anyone can put on an act, can't they?" Chloe Henderson clearly didn't expect me to answer her. Her fake smile was about to falter. Absolutely, absolutely. With that, Chloe pulled Ryan and turned to leave. Watching their retreating figures as they almost fled, I smiled even wider. "Think you can mess with me?" After the charity gala, I stood at the hotel entrance waiting for Ethan Miller to bring the car around. Ryan Hayes appeared beside me at some point, his expression unreadable. When did this happen? I didn't react for a moment. Seeing his face turn darker, I finally understood. He was asking about my brother Ethan and me? "It's been a long time," I answered indifferently, not wanting to get further entangled with him. Who wants to hang around with trash late at night? Before we broke up? Or after? Ryan continued to ask. I frowned, looking at him, truly not wanting to get involved. Before. We've known each other since we were kids. Childhood friends. Ryan seemed surprised by my honesty. The anger in his eyes was practically burning out. "Ava Miller, you're something else." I silently nodded. "Thanks for the compliment." As soon as I finished speaking, my brother Ethan's car stopped in front of us. I didn't plan to say anything more to Ryan Hayes. I opened the car door and got in, all in one smooth motion. "Why were you with him again?" my brother Ethan asked, looking at me with distaste. I shrugged helplessly. "He's like a fly I can't shake off." "Is that my fault?" My brother Ethan looked at what I did and instantly found it hilarious. "Flies are drawn to, well, trash." You really picked the perfect comparison. A few days later, one afternoon, my brother Ethan suddenly called me. He said his good friend Brandon Clark was back in the country for business, and he had a surgery he couldn't leave, so he asked me to pick him up from the airport. I was quite happy with this task. After all, since we were kids, whenever my brother Ethan bullied me, Brandon would help me. So I've always been incredibly fond of him. After hanging up the phone, I drove straight from the office to the airport. When a tall, handsome man over 6 feet stepped out of the arrival gate and stood in front of me, I almost didn't recognize him. That sharp jawline, that high nose bridge. For someone like me who's a sucker for good looks, it was simply fatal attraction. "Ava," Brandon Clark said, his eyes smiling, calling my name. I was taken aback for a moment, then reacted and smiled at him. "Brandon," I said, circling him once. "You've changed so much." Brandon Clark still had that same gentle demeanor he did back then. "Ava is getting more and more beautiful too." After not seeing each other for many years, we exchanged a few simple pleasantries, then drove away from the airport. Along the way, I learned that he was back for a while this time and was living in the same neighborhood as me. To be more specific, right across from my apartment building. After reaching the garage, I was like a little bee, helping him with his luggage one moment and carrying things the next. After all, he hadn't been back for years, plus the favor he did me by helping me beat up my brother Ethan when we were kids. I had to show him some hospitality, especially since he was a handsome guy. But I didn't expect that we would actually run into Ryan Hayes. He stood there, expression serious, fists clenched, watching me busy myself back and forth, not saying a word. Brandon Clark got out of the car and saw the person standing there. He took the things from my hand and asked, "Ava, that person seems to be watching you. Do you know him?" I didn't even look up. "No." To welcome Brandon Clark back, my brother Ethan organized a gathering at a bar after work. I had nothing to do, so I drove Brandon over and decided to hang out there too. Ryan Hayes followed us at some point. Seeing a group of us sitting around, laughing and chatting, he walked over, face filled with anger. He grabbed my hand and pulled me outside. I frowned, shaking off his hand fiercely, my tone filled with displeasure. Ryan Hayes, what the hell are you doing? Ryan Hayes turned back, his eyes full of rage. He roared, Ava Miller, do you know what you're doing? Doing what? I rubbed my wrist where he had grabbed me, looking at him with equal anger. Ryan Hayes suddenly laughed, a self-mocking sound. Ava Miller, do you need money that badly? Debasing yourself by hanging around with all these people? I have money now. When I told you to come back to me, why did you act so pure? I was completely bewildered by what he was saying, having no idea what nonsense he was spouting. I looked at him as if he were an idiot. Ryan Hayes, are you out of your mind? Have you forgotten you're married now? You're the one who gave up our relationship for money. What right do you have to say anything about me? Since you're so free, want me to tell Chloe? Ask her dear dad to give you more work to do. After saying that, I didn't pay attention to Ryan Hayes' reaction and walked straight back towards my brother Ethan. To my utter dismay, a week later, a video of Ryan Hayes and me arguing at the bar was actually uploaded online. The caption read, Henderson Corp's new son-in-law, Ryan Hayes, suspected of cheating, photo of his mistress exposed. As one of the most well-known companies in the city, personnel changes at Henderson Corporation naturally attracted a lot of attention. Plus, Chloe Henderson was a social media influencer. This topic quickly trended online. Many people also doxed me and dug up evidence of Ryan Hayes and my relationship dating back to college. For a time, people online were quick to judge. Many questioned who the mistress really was, and many personally attacked me. Initially, I didn't plan to bother with them. The online world is full of truth and lies, lies and truth, and I didn't have that much time to fuss over it. Until Chloe Henderson went live afterward, subtly or not so subtly implied I was trying to steal her husband. And Ryan Hayes, after Chloe's live stream, directly posted online accusing me of trying to steal him, blaming everything on me. Online public opinion instantly reversed. All the comments that had expressed doubt disappeared. Underneath that one trending topic, it was nothing but comments cursing me out. I found it somewhat amusing to read. The only saving grace was that since I took over Miller Corporation, I hadn't officially disclosed my identity. Everyone knew that Miller Corporation was currently led by a female boss, but no one knew it was me. It was because of this that Miller Corp's stock wasn't affected. To make matters worse, just when I firmly believed that the truth would come out eventually and the online drama would blow over in a couple of days, someone, I don't know who, uploaded photos of my brother Ethan and me shopping, attending the charity gala, picking up Brandon, attending the bar gathering, and so on. The topic, Henderson Corp's new son-in-law suspected of cheating, was once again topped the trending list. Ava Miller being kept followed closely behind. Before long, the name Ava Miller echoed across the entire internet, becoming the new poster child for someone everyone loved to hate. Even my brother Ethan and Brandon, who never paid attention to entertainment news, called me to ask if I needed help. I was practically laughing. And Chloe Henderson's follower count directly increased tenfold from the original 200,000. She seemed to have tasted the sweetness of public opinion, even pulling Ryan Hayes into live streams with her, crying and wailing online about how I had tried to steal him. Given the situation, I had thought Ryan Hayes and I would have no more interactions. This seemed fine, at least I had shaken off that annoying fly. But I didn't expect Ryan Hayes would actually have the nerve to ask to meet me. This did pique my curiosity. I arrived as agreed. Ryan Hayes acted as if nothing had happened, still as gentle and considerate as ever. If it weren't for how crazy things had been these past few days, I might have actually been fooled by this act he was putting on. Throughout the meal, there wasn't much conversation between us. After 5 years of being together, he knew everything about what I liked to eat and my habits. After the meal was finished, Ryan Hayes finally got to the point of the evening. Ava, how have you been doing lately? I watched his performance and nodded. Pretty good. I wasn't lying. I really was doing well. The online drama didn't affect my ability to make money at all. But Ryan Hayes clearly didn't believe me. He quickly explained, Ava, Chloe forced me to say those things in the live stream. I didn't want to. She said if I didn't do as she said, she'd tell her dad and have him remove me from the vice president position. I had no choice but to say that. Ava, please don't blame me. Ryan Hayes became more and more agitated, even reaching out to grab my hand on the table. I quickly pulled away. He didn't get angry, slowly retracted his hand, and continued, Ava, I have money now. Let's start over. I promise I'll be good to you, only good to you for the rest of my life. Then go back and divorce Chloe Henderson. We'll go back to how things were before, I said slowly, looking at Ryan Hayes. In 5 years, he wasn't the only one who understood me. I understood him too. Someone who's had it good wouldn't willingly go back to struggling like before. As expected, Ryan Hayes didn't disappoint me. He hesitated for a moment, then stammered, Ava, don't be silly. With Chloe Henderson, we'll have money. We won't have to live the hard life we did before. As long as you stay with me, I promise you won't suffer any hardship. I looked at him and smiled. Suddenly, I couldn't understand what I had liked about this man in front of me for the past 5 years. I shook my head. Sorry, I'm not in the habit of sharing a man. With that, I picked up my bag from the table and walked straight out of the restaurant. After the restaurant incident, Ryan Hayes didn't look for me again. Perhaps he really knew when to quit, or perhaps there was another reason, but it had nothing to do with me. Chloe Henderson's live stream continued to exploit my reputation, but the netizens' initial enthusiasm had waned. That's how online events are, they come and go quickly. But a new trending topic appeared. The day Ryan Hayes asked to meet me, he was spotted by one of Chloe Henderson's fans. To stand up for Chloe Henderson, she recorded the entire video, including what Ryan Hayes said to me. That same day, Chloe Henderson brought a group of reporters to block me at my apartment building entrance. I had ignored everything before, but this time I was truly furious. A bunch of cameras were shoved right in my face. Chloe Henderson was still aggressive and pushy beside me. Ava Miller, I can't believe you're still trying to seduce my husband. You like seducing people, do you? Today, I'll let everyone see that vixen face of yours. Bitch, shameless woman. Everyone, come see. This is the bitch who loves to seduce other people's men, relying on that vixen face to do whatever she wants. It was rush hour, and Chloe Henderson's words attracted many onlookers. Many people were pointing and whispering at me. I, who was usually quick-witted, fell silent at that moment. I remembered the year of my parents' car accident, how the reporters had also swarmed, interviewed, completely disregarding everything. I lowered my head, forcing down the physical discomfort, but I still couldn't stop trembling. Suddenly, a warm embrace enveloped me, shielding me from all the noise outside. I smelled a familiar scent and heard a low, gentle voice by my ear. Don't be scared, I'm here. Held in Brandon Clark's arms, I watched as the person who was always gentle erupted in that moment. He looked furiously at the instigator of this incident and said sharply, Chloe Henderson, is it? If I'm not mistaken, this isn't the first time you've groundlessly slandered Ava. It has already caused irreparable damage to Ava's reputation. I officially inform you that regarding the harm you have caused Ava, we will be filing a civil lawsuit against you. My lawyer will be in touch regarding the follow-up. After Brandon Clark finished speaking, he didn't plan to waste any more time with them. He half embraced me and walked towards his side. I don't know if Chloe Henderson was startled by Brandon Clark's words or intimidated by seeing Brandon Clark's face. She froze, watching our retreating backs, and didn't say anything else. It wasn't until Brandon Clark held me as we closed the door, shutting out everyone outside. Grown up and gotten foolish? Why didn't you come to your brother when something this big happened? Brandon Clark was still half embracing me, but his tone had softened considerably. I quickly pulled out of his embrace, my cheeks flushed without me realizing it. I stammered for a long time, not daring to look him in the eye. Brandon Clark seemed to see my embarrassment. He sighed, didn't press me further on the topic. What are you planning to do? Do you need your brother's help? I shook my head emphatically, quickly refusing. I can handle it. Seeing this, Brandon Clark didn't make things difficult for me anymore. He said softly, just like when we were kids, if Ava has any problems, you can always come to your brother. The day after Chloe Henderson gathered reporters to block me, I called together the company's legal team to discuss a strategy. Perhaps it was my repeated patience that had made them think I was easy to bully. Chloe Henderson still pulled Ryan Hayes into live streams, denouncing my various misdeeds. But I'm not a pushover either. The company's legal team sent a lawyer's letter to Henderson Corporation that same afternoon. It was said that Chloe Henderson's father, David Henderson, was shaking when he received the lawyer's letter. He immediately called Chloe Henderson and Ryan Hayes back. That evening, Ryan Hayes actually had the nerve to show up outside my apartment building. Ava, how do you know people from Miller Corporation? Why are they sticking up for you? What did you give them? Ryan Hayes rushed up to me, questioning me repeatedly. I was taken aback for a moment, then left. What's it to you? Ryan Hayes wasn't angry. Ava, I know marrying Chloe Henderson was wrong, but you shouldn't ruin yourself just to get back at me. Why go through all that? Getting involved with those rich kids, you won't end up well. They just want to have some fun. Hearing this, I laughed even harder. Why hadn't I realized before how narcissistic this guy was? Now, I wasn't afraid to tell him the truth. I looked Ryan Hayes straight in the eye and said, word for word, have you ever considered what the CEO of Miller Corp's last name is? And what my last name is? After I said that, Ryan Hayes clearly froze. I didn't wait for him to react, walked around him, opened the door and went inside. As if to confirm my words, the next morning, as soon as I parked my car, I saw Ryan Hayes in the office lobby. He kept looking left and right as if waiting for someone. I pretended not to see him and walked straight towards the company elevators. But before I had taken many steps, Ryan Hayes immediately ran over and stopped me. Ava, are you really working at Miller Corporation? What's your relationship with the boss of Miller Corporation? In just one night, Ryan Hayes' attitude did a complete 180, from accusatory tones to flattering words. I found it oddly disgusting to watch. I looked at him expressionlessly. Sir, do you need something? Ryan Hayes was taken aback for a moment, still smiling. Ava, what's wrong? I just came to see you. I'm relieved to know you're doing well. If I hadn't seen Ryan Hayes' disgusting side before, I might have actually been fooled by this act he was putting on. I continued to look at him expressionlessly. Sir, what exactly do you need? Not just anyone can get into Miller Corporation. Hearing this, Ryan Hayes' relaxed brows furrowed, and his tone carried a hint of impatience. Ava, how can you talk like that? Before he could finish speaking, 2 department managers walked over to me. Ms. Miller, Ms. Miller. The 2 department managers greeted me and walked straight into the office. Ryan Hayes' incessant babbling instantly stopped. He looked at the backs of the 2 department managers, then looked at me, his expression shifting from impatience to great shock. Mr. Henderson, you can't go in. Mr. Henderson, you don't have an appointment, you can't go in. A sudden commotion came from outside my office door. As soon as I looked up to see what was happening, I saw David Henderson walking into my office, bringing Chloe Henderson and Ryan Hayes with him. My secretary looked at me, saying tremblingly, Ms. Miller, I'm sorry, I couldn't stop them. I frowned, looking at the 3 people who had burst in, and waved my hand at my secretary, signaling her to leave first. The moment Chloe Henderson saw me, her eyes practically bulged out. But then she seemed to remember something and smiled again. Well, Ava Miller, you sure have connections. You managed to latch onto someone as big as Miller Corporation. You're really... Before Chloe Henderson could finish speaking, a crisp, slapping sound suddenly rang out. Covering her face, Chloe looked at her father, her expression shocked. Dad, why did you hit me? What did I say wrong? Chloe paused, her voice trembling with emotion. Are you also infatuated by that bitch? Dad, why did you hit me? What did I say wrong? Chloe Henderson paused, her emotions running high. Have you been fooled by this vixen too? David Henderson was practically furious with his daughter. He raised his hand to slap her again. I quickly interrupted. Mr. Henderson, this isn't a daycare where you can discipline your daughter. Please take it outside. Hearing this, David Henderson quickly lowered his hand. Ms. Miller, please, be the bigger person and let my daughter off. I looked at Chloe Henderson, whose eyes were practically bulging out of her face, and chuckled softly. Mr. Henderson, are you mistaken? How could a vixen like me possibly be in a position to forgive you? After David Henderson brought Chloe Henderson and Ryan Hayes to cause a scene in my office, I didn't see them for several days. This was quite unexpected, but it was good. I finally got some peace and quiet. As for Brandon Clark, who had been busy since returning to the country, after witnessing the day Chloe Henderson arranged for reporters to surround me, he invited me out every now and then, saying it was to help me relax. Faced with Brandon Clark's kindness, I found myself enjoying it. After all, who doesn't enjoy spending time with a handsome guy? One evening, Brandon Clark asked me to go see a movie after work, and I agreed. But I didn't expect to see Ryan Hayes as soon as I left the office entrance. He was no longer the clean-cut, handsome man he'd been before. He looked particularly haggard, standing there hunched over. The moment he saw me, I could distinctly feel his eyes light up. Ava, you're finally out." Ryan Hayes rushed towards me. The haggardness and gloom on his face vanished. I looked at him, my expression indifferent. Something wrong. Ryan Hayes seemed agitated. He took a step forward, wanting to grab my shoulder. Watching his movement, I silently took a step back, causing him to miss and leaving his hand awkwardly suspended in midair. "Just say what you need." I was direct and to the point. Honestly, looking at him now, my heart surprisingly didn't stir at all. Ryan Hayes seemed surprised that I had stepped back. He awkwardly lowered his hand, but his emotions quickly became agitated again. "Ava, I've already divorced Chloe Henderson. We can be together again. We can get married this time." I narrowed my eyes, looking at him calmly. "Have you ever considered why I, Ava Miller, would want a man who's not only twice married but also betrayed me?" As I finished speaking, Brandon Clark's car pulled up right in front of us. I got into the car without looking back. Brandon Clark also saw the person outside the car. He glanced at me, and seeing that my gaze was normal, he drove away. "Has he been bothering you like this often?" Brandon Clark suddenly asked after driving for a while. I was taken aback for a moment, then realized he was talking about Ryan Hayes. "Occasionally. He seems to have divorced Chloe Henderson." Hearing this, Brandon Clark glanced at me again. His grip on the steering wheel tightened, and his Adam's apple bobbed. "And you? What are your plans?" I didn't quite understand what he meant. As the traffic light at the intersection turned from green to red, Brandon Clark slowly stopped the car. He looked at me again, his eyes as bright as stars. "Ava, aren't you planning to start a new relationship?" This conversation ended with my silence. Knowing I didn't want to answer, Brandon Clark didn't press me further. He was as usual, acting as if nothing had happened. The next morning, I saw Ryan Hayes again outside the office building. He was still wearing the same clothes as yesterday. Several buttons were torn off his collar, and they were wrinkled. Some stubble had grown on his face. He looked incredibly disheveled. The moment he saw me, he rushed over again, his eyes full of anger. "Who was that person yesterday?" I looked at him and raised my eyebrows slightly. "How is that any of your business?" "How is it not? You're my girlfriend," Ryan Hayes roared. It was working hours, and many passers-by turned to look. I glanced at the surrounding stares and suddenly laughed. "Want me to remind you? You were the one who married Chloe Henderson for money and gave up our relationship. What, now that Chloe Henderson doesn't want you, you're coming back to me? Do I look like someone who picks up trash?" Perhaps my words had left him speechless. Ryan Hayes glared at me with resentment, but before he could say anything, he was surrounded by enthusiastic passers-by. I don't know which kind passerby started verbally attacking Ryan Hayes first. This opened the floodgates. In an instant, a group of righteous passers-by surrounded him and began to denounce him. Ryan Hayes gritted his teeth, veins bulging on his forehead. He said something vicious to me. "Fine then, Ava Miller, you'll regret this. Just you wait." With that, he turned and left without looking back. After that day, my life returned to normal. Ryan Hayes never appeared again. Brandon Clark and I grew closer, meeting more frequently. It felt like a rebirth. Everything felt like a new beginning. One day, as Brandon Clark and I were having dinner, we were chatting and laughing about things that had happened to us. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. I picked up the phone from the table and looked at it. With just one glance, the indecent photos made my relaxed brows instantly furrow, and my face began to show panic. Brandon Clark noticed my abnormality immediately. He frowned, walked to my side with a worried look, and said softly, "What's wrong?" Hearing his low voice by my ear, my heart pounded wildly. I quickly turned my phone face down in a panic. I didn't know if Brandon Clark had seen it or how much he had seen. At that moment, all I wanted was to escape to somewhere empty and just sink lower and lower. Brandon Clark saw my panic state. He seemed to understand what I was trying to do and pulled me into his arms, gently stroking my back. "Don't be scared, I'm here." It was still those same 4 short words, but they somehow made me feel incredibly calm. He never asked what had happened. He just held me quietly, gently stroking my back over and over. After I don't know how long, under Brandon Clark's comfort, my emotions recovered a little. I slowly pulled away from his embrace. "Thank you." Brandon Clark looked at me, his expression somehow carrying a hint of being wronged. He feigned anger, raised his hand, and flicked my forehead. "Don't be ridiculous with the thank yous." I winced, rubbing my sore forehead where he flicked me and glared at him in defiance. The remaining bit of helplessness was dispelled by his actions. Seeing that I had completely calmed down, Brandon Clark's expression gradually grew serious. His voice was firm. "Don't be scared. I'm here with you." Not long after the photos were sent, my phone rang again. I panicked, biting my lip, and glanced at Brandon Clark. "Don't be scared." Sensing my panic, he reached out and enveloped my left hand in his palm. The steady warmth in his palm gave me immense courage. I unlocked my phone and looked at it. This time it was a message. "Stranger, got the photos? Ryan Hayes owes us $50 million. You're his girlfriend. If you don't pay it back for him, I'll make the photos public." Brandon Clark saw the short message too. He looked at the message on the phone, narrowed his eyes, anger flashing through them. He loosened his grip on my hand, then intertwined our fingers and glanced at me again. Seeing that my emotions weren't visibly affected, he spoke. "Ava, don't be scared. I'm here. I'll handle this." His tone was especially serious and earnest. I don't remember how many times he had told me not to be scared, but every time I heard those words, I felt strangely at ease. Hearing his voice, I looked up at him. Our eyes met. In his eyes, I saw overwhelming concern. A moment later, I squeezed his hand back and gave him a bright smile. "I can handle this myself. I'm not the one who should be scared." I had originally planned to go to the police station myself to report it, but I couldn't talk Brandon out of coming with me. He held my hand the entire way, not letting go even while driving. I knew he was worried about me. No woman could just brush off something like this with a smile, but I was very lucky. Thinking of this, I smiled slightly. "What are you smiling about?" Brandon Clark asked, glancing at me at some point. Seeing the slight curve of my lips, he smiled too. I shook his hand and muttered to him, "Focus on driving." Hearing this, he glanced at me again, unable to suppress the smile on his lips. After leaving the police station, Brandon Clark drove me home. "Get some good rest. Don't think about anything. I'll come find you tomorrow morning," Brandon Clark said, gently nudging me towards the door. I turned back to look at him, pursed my lips, and blurted out instinctively, "Are you coming in?" Brandon Clark was taken aback for a moment. He reached out and stroked my head, smiling. "It's too late. Go back and rest quickly." Oh! At that particular moment, faced with Brandon's refusal, I couldn't quite pinpoint what I felt inside, just a faint sense of loss flowing through my heart. The next morning, I didn't wait for Brandon Clark and left for work early. The morning's work left me emotionally exhausted, with no time at all to think about all this mess. My phone rang several times during this time. They were all calls from Brandon Clark. I pretended not to see them. I thought a lot last night, and thought about many things. Honestly, after something like this happened, I wasn't sure how I should face Brandon Clark. He deserves someone better. Soon after starting work in the afternoon, news came from the police station. They said Ryan Hayes and the person who sent me the threatening message had been found and asked me to come confirm. As soon as I stepped into the police station, I saw Ryan Hayes sitting there hunched over. Beside him was a short, stout middle-aged man. The moment they saw me, their eyes were full of anger, as if they wanted to devour me whole. But then, I saw Ryan Hayes' gaze shift from anger to flattery. He rushed up to me and said in a low, pleading voice, "Ava, he forced me to do all this. It has nothing to do with me. Just for the sake of all the years we had, please help me. I don't want to go to jail. As long as you help me pay off the debt, you can tell me what to do from now on. I won't betray you again. Anyway, you're so rich, this little bit of money is nothing to you. As long as you help me pay the money back, I promise I'll be with you this life, next life, the life after that." I just stood there, watching Ryan Hayes' pathetic state with a cold eye. He was practically begging on his knees. At that moment, the bit of panic I had felt completely vanished. Suddenly, I couldn't figure out what I had ever liked about this man in front of me all those years ago. I handed everything over to the company's legal department to handle. It was said that Ryan Hayes not only gave my private photos to the creditor, but didn't spare Chloe Henderson's either. At the same time, he had embezzled tens of millions of dollars from Henderson Corporation during his time there, all used for gambling debts. He was completely finished this time. He'll likely spend the rest of his life serving hard time. The day Ryan Hayes had his public hearing, I dressed up and sat in the public gallery, watching him plead guilty to charge after charge. I had thought my heart would stir a little, but only at that moment did I realize I had truly let go. It was time to say goodbye to 5 years of my youth. After leaving the courthouse, I felt like a new person. But before I could even take a breath of this new air, I was suddenly shoved into my brother Ethan's car. "Ethan Miller, what the hell are you doing?" I protested vehemently against his rough behavior, but it clearly had no effect. My brother Ethan didn't say anything. He drove, managing to spare me a glance, and rolled his eyes. The look on his face was as if he was looking at an idiot. I was so annoyed, I felt choked up by my brother Ethan's look. I snorted at him, turning away in a huff, making my silent protest. My brother Ethan saw this, a slight smile played on his lips. He raised a hand to cover the smile on his lips and glanced at me again before continuing to drive. It wasn't until we arrived at the destination that my brother Ethan roughly pulled me out of his car again. Struggling and making futile attempts to resist, I yelled, "Ethan Miller, you jerk. You get your butt to the office tomorrow. I'm done covering for you." "You're picking on Ava again." As my shriek faded, a man's voice I knew all too well suddenly sounded from behind me. I froze, forgetting to struggle. Looking stunned, I turned my head to look behind me. My brother Ethan frowned, a frustrated look on his face. A moment later, he released my hand and walked towards Brandon Clark behind me. The two men's eyes met, bristling with tension, full of sparks. I watched as my brother Ethan's eyes and tone filled with threat. "I brought her here for you, but only I get to mess with my sister. If you dare bully her, I'll come find you tonight and settle the score." "Got it." Hearing this, Brandon Clark's lips curved slightly, his eyes were firm. He raised a hand and clapped my brother Ethan's shoulder. "Thanks, but I won't give you the chance." They were talking about me, yet I, the one they were talking about, was completely lost. After Brandon Clark finished speaking, my brother Ethan walked over to me with a frown, raised a hand and flicked my forehead. He didn't forget to tell me, "Look at you, so clueless. Be more careful from now on." I winced, rubbing my sore forehead, and angrily shouted his name in protest. "Ethan Miller." My brother Ethan completely ignored me, walked straight towards his car, and didn't forget to wave. I watched huffily as my brother Ethan got into his car and drove off without looking back. "I'm sorry," Brandon Clark stood in front of me at some point. I looked back at him. I hadn't seen him for nearly a month. He seemed to have lost some weight, and faint dark circles were under his bright eyes. Seeing me look at him, he lowered his gaze, hiding the vulnerability in his eyes, and said softly again, "I'm sorry. I didn't consider your feelings. Can you forgive me?" Brandon Clark and I got together 3 months after Ryan Hayes was jailed. That day, he planned a most memorable proposal for me at my favorite beach, and even invited my brother Ethan as a witness. Even after so long, I still remember how his hand was shaking when he took the ring out of his pocket. He said, "I regret not being able to be part of your past, but I'll be by your side every step of the way in the future. I originally thought it was just a promise made in the heat of the moment, but after that, he really did shift his primary focus to work here. He spoiled me unconditionally and without reservation. 2 years later, we got married. Moments before the wedding, I received a message in the dressing room. It was from the police. They had busted a fraud ring that used photo manipulation to scam people, and they found my photos among them, the same ones Ryan Hayes had used as collateral. The moment I saw the message, I froze. The hidden thorn in my heart vanished in that moment. Brandon Clark happened to walk in with a glass of warm water. Seeing me sitting there stunned, he placed the water on the dressing table, knelt beside me, his bright eyes filled with worry, and said softly, "Ava, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well?" Looking at his cautious demeanor, I suddenly smiled, reached out and hugged him, and leaned in and whispered in his ear, "Brandon Clark, I love you." His body stiffened, then he smiled. A faint pink crept up his ears, his voice full of conviction. "Ava Miller, I love you too. I love you more than I love myself." The past was completely behind me, and I was stepping into a brand new future.